Good morning. This is Barry O'Brien from the Mayor's office. I am joined with West Palm Beach Mayor Jeri Muoio. Good morning.
Good morning, Barry.
Good morning. We are very happy to have you here. We're sitting in the Mayor's office here right in downtown West Palm Beach, and every week we're going to get a chance to ask her some questions, some follow-up on things that are going on in the city, and get her ideas on some events that are going to be happening. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask her in the future, feel free to drop me a line, barry@barryobrien.com, and I'll be more than happy to pass them on. Mayor Muoio, one thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the new bicycle share program, which I read about, and I'm fascinated by this and very excited about it. Can you give us some of the details on that and when it's going to be starting?
Yeah, we're very excited about it as well. A company called Deco Bike is going to be here, and there will be bicycles located in something like 26 locations around the city, downtown, Northwood, different places like that. And anybody can sign up to be able to use the bikes on a monthly basis if they want, sign up for so many hours. Or on the spur of the moment, if you want to take a bike and ride over to Northwood on your bike, you can do that, and you rent it for a period of time. And then you drop it off wherever. You can bring it back to where you got it from, or drop it off at another one of the kiosks where the other bikes are. And we're hoping that this will encourage more people to ride bikes around our city and have access to everything that's going on in a convenient way. So a lot of big cities do this. Miami does it, and Washington, D.C. So it's something that I think sort of brings us into the 21st century.
Right, very big up in Boston, of course, with all the college students, and in New York. I was in Brooklyn visiting my stepdaughter over Christmas, and it was about 20 degrees, and there were snow piles on the side, and those I think they call it City Bike up there. It's sponsored by Citibank. And you take these, and I guess you put a credit card in. I guess you have registered for it, and it remembers where you picked it up. You can drop it at virtually any other location.
Exactly.
So for example, if you live, and I did look at the locations that they're going to have the stands in, and they're going to be around a lot of the condos downtown, and they're also having a bike rack at Bradley's. So you can get on at 2 City Place or the Whitney or wherever and go and have a few cocktails at Bradley's. And then, of course, maybe we'll have to have the police watching for DUIs. At least they won't have a motor connected to it. Now, do you know when this is going to begin?
The last I heard was the fall, but it's possible it'll be sooner than that. I don't know the latest at this point.
And I think there's going to be something like about 140 bikes. Do you know how far away from now, is this primarily a downtown?
Well, it'll be primarily downtown, Northwood.
And you mentioned Northwood, yeah.
Yeah, and probably the Norton. We'll have something at the Norton Museum, at the convention center, some of the major venues that we have as well.
Of course, from what I understand, in other cities, the bulk of the people who use these are residents. Mm-hmm. The tourists would have a tendency to go to a local bicycle rental place to rent it by the hour. This is really more oriented to people who want to have a bicycle available to them for a long period of time and don't want to buy one and don't want to have to deal with the parking of it.
Yeah. Well, I think it certainly is appealing to residents, but we hope also it'll be appealing to tourists.
Sure.
Because, we'd love to have tourists in our downtown who might be really interested in going up and seeing what Northwood's happening or what's going on at Curry Park. Mm-hmm. So, I think it'll be good for everyone.
I think that the next, when that becomes successful, which I'm sure that it will, I think that the next extension will probably be having discussions with Palm Beach and having some racks over there, because that's certainly what has happened in other cities, although sometimes doing things in conjunction with them is always a little bit of a challenge, right. But I'm sure they would welcome it. Tell us a little bit about your trip to New Orleans last week and what was accomplished on that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. I went to New Orleans to attend a Cities United conference. And Cities United is a group of 56, at this point, cities that have signed on to address issues of opportunity and hope for young African American males or young males of color. And so I brought with me someone from the Urban League, Ike Powell from the Urban League. I brought with me Pastor Kevin Jones, who works here in City Hall, but also is the youth pastor at Tabernacle Church. And we talked a lot about how we can work together to affect the futures of young men of color, particularly to keep them well and healthy and have positive outcomes like avoid incarceration, stop the violence where young African American men are being killed through gun violence, making sure we address some of the achievement gap discrepancies that we've seen between minorities, minority learners and others. So it was a really a great conference. It was hosted by Mayor Nutter of Philadelphia and Mayor Landrieu of New Orleans. There were people as far away as Seattle and Tacoma, from Philadelphia, and of course West Palm Beach. So we got a lot of good ideas about how we can bring different groups of people together to really address this issue. We just had a killing the other day on the corner of one on 33rd and Broadway, and another one on, I believe it was 6th. And these are young men killing each other. And we need to interrupt that cycle of violence.
Tragic. We're speaking with West Palm Beach Mayor Jeri Muoio. We will be back after this brief message. We're speaking with West Palm Beach Mayor Jeri Muoio from her office in City Hall in West Palm Beach. We were speaking of your trip to New Orleans. Do you, after conferences like this, do you stay in touch with the other mayors from the other cities and exchange ideas and thoughts?
We do. It's part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and part of the League of Cities. And so U.S. Conference of Mayors is the conference that I belong to, and we have lots of opportunities to talk and share with other mayors. Another really cool thing that happened when we were in New Orleans talking about this really important issue, the president came out with his new program called My Brother's Keeper, and I don't know if you saw that press conference, but he was flanked by many young men who are involved with making sure that they, in a school that makes sure that they stay, continue to have positive outcomes. So during the press conference, the president mentioned that 19 mayors were together in New Orleans with Cities United working on this very topic. And after he finished his press conference, he called in, and we were all sitting around a table, and we chatted with him a little bit about this as one of his priorities, now also one of the priorities of 56 mayors across the country.
That's great.
Yeah.
I always love it when you have a little cue on something. As I mentioned, we're sitting in Mayor Muoio's office in City Hall, which of course has the Florida East Coast Railroad tracks going right by, and I'm sure that you could hear the train horn going in the background. And from what I understand, you have a trip coming to, are you ever in town? Do you stay here at all? I mean, the weather's gorgeous here. Why are you going? Now, New Orleans is pretty good. You don't want to go to Washington now?
New Orleans was freezing.
Was it?
I couldn't have been happier to come home. This is a month where a lot of things have occurred. Usually I'm here, but this is unusual.
Right.
But we are going to Washington next week. We'll be meeting with our legislators, talking about some priorities that we have. One of them is a Tiger Grant application that we'll be working with Palm Beach County and Broward County to get funding for quiet zones so that when the trains go by, we won't be bothered by the horns. So we'll be talking to everybody we can talk to about this and advocating to be one of the grantees for the quiet.
So the money would come from the federal government to upgrade the equipment at the crossings so that the trains would not be required to have their horns blow.
Exactly.
Now, while we're on that subject, have you had any other conversations with All Aboard Florida. I'm seeing that they're still pretty good at getting their press releases out. I did notice that they very quietly slipped in and said beginning of 2016, when they always had been, well, actually, when they started, they said the end of 2014. We've now pushed up to the beginning of 2016. I don't see any work on train stations. I don't see any double tracking, which is all necessary. Any ideas of what the timing is on that?
If they said beginning of 2016, I'm sure that's what they're aiming for. My staff meets with them on a regular basis, probably almost weekly, and they have submitted some of their first designs for the train station. So we're working with them, and looking forward to having it come to fruition.
You won't find a bigger supporter of this than me. As somebody who lived in Washington and virtually commuted to New York on the Metroliner and then Acela Express, and same thing from Boston, I am really excited about this as an option. I think there's a lot of people down here who are not as familiar with using mass transit.
Right.
They've been used to having their cars pull up in front of everything, and we have especially along the coast here, we do have the density of the population to make this work. I think it's going to be very, very interesting.
Well, I'm a big supporter of mass transit, and I don't think that we've looked at that enough here in this county. We always solve problems of congestion by building another road, and that's not the way you solve problems of congestion.
No.
So, I'm excited about this. We've already seen a lot more pick up in interest in some of our downtown properties. People are coming in on a regular basis talking about hotels and condos and, additional development around the train station. So
As soon as that breaks ground, you're going to see a real flurry of activity.
I agree with you.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. What else on your DC trip next week? What else is on the agenda?
One of the things that we always talk about is State Road 7. We in the city continue to oppose the building of State Road 7 through our water catchment area. And we will be talking to the environmental agencies, Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps, environmental quality, and continuing to explain to them our opposition to the building of that road. It's something that we do every year, sometimes twice a year. They've heard this story. The Fish and Wildlife and Army Corps have been incredibly supportive. And as a matter of fact, there was a recent letter issued to FDOT saying to them from both Army Corps and Fish and Wildlife, we strongly urge you to find another right-of-way, another approach to this. We're going to continue to work on it.
Seems like a subject that keeps going on and on.
Well, yeah, it
Yep.
probably will.
Well, coming up, we've got the Irish Festival this weekend. Boat show prep's going to be going on. Boat show is about the 20th or so, something like
I
that?
think it starts, yes.
Streets will start to be blocked off for that. Lots of good things going on. I want to thank you so much for being with us here on Seaview Radio. We've been with West Palm Beach Mayor Jeri Muoio. I'm Barry O'Brien, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Barry.